All right, I think we got the stream going. Let's see. Make sure. Yep, it's starting up. Hello, everybody. I'm live. Another Inktober stream. I am quite sick today, but that's okay. Hello, Jesus. Nice to have you here. One sec. All right. Today's prompt was fierce. For whatever reason, the first character I thought of, one of my favorites in terms of anime, Cowboy Bebop, the character of Faye Valentine. Wow, we got a bunch of folks here. Hello, all. Nintendo, Anja, that one awkward kid, Ghost Dog, Sigamigs. All right, so I'm here. I'm quite sick. Yesterday I thought I was getting better. Today has been much tougher. But whatever. I'm home. It's just drawing. I can suck it up for another day. As I was saying, the prompt today is fierce, and it just made me think of the character of Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop. And I mean that as a compliment. I think she's a fierce character. So I'm going to do my take on her. I hope everybody's doing all right tonight. Maybe better than I am. That would be nice. I wish you all the best. Appreciate everybody joining. Really helps make the time fly by. So I learned something last night, or I should just say yesterday. I was having so much fun drawing, and I was not really paying attention to what I was doing. I was a little out of it, just on a bunch of cold medication, and I got really bogged down in details. I flipped back to look at the work, and I completely ignored a lot of the structure that I had laid out in the penciling stage. I just say a lot of mistakes in that one, and I was so disappointed because I was having such a good time. I thought I was doing a good job, and then I went to look at it, and I was like, this isn't good at all. I know I can do better. Just sort of disappointing because I was having fun, but I don't really care for the final result. Yeah, so that was sort of a surprise for me to like take a look and go like, I don't remember doing this. I guess I was kind of out of it and not really realizing it. The focus is going weird again, says Sigamigs. Is it? Oh, geez. All right, let's see what I can do about that. It's a pulsing camera again. Looks like it's stopped. Let's see. I'm going to go into my settings and just take a quick look. It should be all right. Is it? No. How about this one? No, that's not. Huh. Is it still pulsing? Nintendo says that he just finished a Gorillas and Spawn inking today. Well, that's awesome, man. That sounds very cool. David Smith asks, have you ever noticed an inker is like a bass player in a band? You only really notice them when they fuck up. Oh, darn it. I swore. That means that this video won't get monetized. That's frustrating. It doesn't look like it's pulsing right now. I think we're okay. Yeah, I don't know why it did that. If it starts again, I'll address it, but it should be okay. Is it just? Yeah, I guess it's like sort of how close the pen is to the camera. I'm gonna scoot this up a little. That looks like it might do a little better. We'll see. Anyway, nice to have you all here. Let's get started, right? See if I can finish this one within an hour. Everything this week has been tough because I've been sick. I have not quite finished this week's Comic Tropes video, but it should be up on time. I'm close to being done with it. There we go. Okay, those are my big outlines. Now I'll start adding some detail. I think I'll make sure I get the face right. Let's see. Yeah. Hello, Gershgorsh. I don't know how you can draw so big. It's so hard for me, says Nintendude. Yeah, I agree. It is easier to draw at a smaller scale, but that's part of why I'm challenging myself. If you can get the detail right at a big scale, then it should look pretty good when you have to do a smaller panel, theoretically. So I'm kind of bummed that I'm so sick. I've got a friend from out of town, and he and I and another friend were all going to go see, what you call it, that new movie. We were going to see Blade Runner 2049 today, but I just was not up to it, unfortunately, so they went without me, and that's fine. I just was not up for it. I just don't feel well enough. But I don't want to do nothing, so that's why I'm trying to work on this. Been studying a lot of inkers lately, trying to see whose style I like and what kind of tips I can emulate. You know, an older one that's really good is Joe Sinnott, and he goes back to like the early days of comics, but he's got some really nice work. I don't know. It's hard to say what exactly it is about his work that I love so much, but it's very, I don't know, it's just very consistent, and I just like how he feathers lines and doesn't bog things down too much with too much cross-hatching or anything. What are your thoughts on movies like Kick-Ass and Super that tackle what if someone tried being a real-life superhero? I can tell you that they actually do inspire people to dress up and try to be real-life superheroes. Not a lot of people, but there are people out there that do it because of movies like that. And that's a little worrying. I've met a bunch of real-life superheroes, and most of them should not be out there trying to help others because they can barely help themselves. Um, I'm not talking about like Phoenix Jones, but there are some other guys here in Seattle. We've got a lot of real life superheroes, and some of these guys are just not capable of being a superhero. It's a little scary. Um, I have some stories to tell someday about my time amongst all of them. It's yeah, and I'll tell you something else is the movies aren't really too accurate. They're still sort of action movies that don't really quite get it right in terms of how things actually play out. I have seen some ugly stuff out there on the streets. Strange. Strange, strange, strange. Let's see. Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, that's right, Lorena. I'm doing a Faye Valentine tonight, or at least trying to. Nintendo says, glad to see you're not doing one type of movie or pop culture characters. I like your diversity. Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to necessarily just do nothing but Marvel superheroes or something. Although I will say that those are primarily what pop into my head at first. I I'm a I'm a Marvel fan, you know. I grew up with those characters, and they're sort of my default idea when I first start thinking about ideas for what to draw. I'm gonna need a thinner pen for this facial detail. I don't want to mess up. Let's see. Ghost Dog says, "What kind of things do they do? Are you talking about real life superheroes? If so, I would say the vast majority of them just try to do like homeless handouts. That's their excuse to sort of be out in the city streets late at night, and then secretly they're looking for fights. And oh, the heck with it! I'll just tell you, I was a real life superhero for a year. I had a suit, and I'm thinking I might do a comic book at some time called My Superhero Year. Met some real strange people, got involved in all sorts of weird stuff out there with the police and protesters and anarchists and drunk people and weird racists and yeah. So I this was a while back now. This is several years back. I was in much better shape. I studied Krav Maga for many years, and I used to dress up in a bulletproof suit and a mask and run around trying to help people. And I think I did help a lot of people, but I I don't think I helped people more than the police, and I don't think I set the sort of example I was hoping to set. I was trying to like make people care and serve as a symbol, but I don't think that really happened. So yeah, I it's crazy. I was in a new city. I was looking for friends, and it's just something I stumbled into. So I was a real life superhero for a year, and it was weird. It was weird. Some of the people that I met were really not bright. Wow, just yeah, some real and to the point where I go like, wow, well maybe I'm not bright if this is what I'm doing. So I eventually decided to quit, and I focus instead now on earning a good living and donating that to a lot of charitable organizations, and I will still do food handouts for homeless people quite a bit, but not in costume. So there's something about me that I didn't plan on talking about, but since not too many people are watching the live stream, I feel like I can talk about it and it won't blow up yet. I hope. Yeah. I'm done talking about that for now. But I may do a comic book about it someday, about the real life stuff that I encountered. So, that's a thing. What all are you up to for the weekend? Anything good going on? Seeing a movie? Going to see a friend? Anything like that? What's good? What's good? Cheddar Monkey says, "Right on, man. Don't need a cape to make a difference." No, that's definitely what I learned. Is it really didn't make enough of a difference. You can, you know, did I encounter fights that needed to be broken up and stuff like that? Yeah, I definitely did. But you don't need to have a suit on to do that. You just need to be out at night when the bars close. You know, um, and yeah, it was weird. David Smith says, "Your channel's like a hidden gem on YouTube." Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it feels like a hidden gem. It feels hidden anyway. Been a little annoyed at Facebook the last couple of weeks, just demonetizing stuff without explaining why. Some people can swear in their videos and they'll still have ads playing before them. Other times, you let one swear word loose and that's it. They've just demonetized you. But that's honestly just sort of a guess because they never really tell you. It's just like you just have to think about it and use process of elimination to guess why they've demonetized your thing without telling you. Or you can appeal it and they won't really explain anything. It's weird. YouTube is a little bit of a hassle in that regard because there's got to be value to them if I'm keeping, some thousand people on YouTube. There's got to be a value there, but they're not going to reimburse you. YouTube's, whatever. If you're not trying to make a living, it's fine. Atlas Z says, "Damn good S right there." See, I'm trying not to swear so that I don't get demonetized. I don't think swearing's that big a deal. I don't think swearing hurts anybody. Hopefully this doesn't look too strange to fans of Cowboy Bebop because I definitely don't draw in any sort of typical uh, manga style. It's just not really how I draw. I'm trying to be respectful to the character designs, but sort of draw it in a more realistic manner because that's just where my talents lie. That feels egocentric, but I don't know how else to define it. Let's see. The Ghost Dog says, I'd buy and read your comic. Thank you, man. I'll let you know if it ever happens. I'm not sure if I'd want to draw it myself or if I'd want to just write it and work with a different artist. I have to really give that some thought. But I think it is a story that I will tell at some point. I probably won't use other people's real names because my interest isn't in hurting anybody's feelings. It's just sort of explaining the real life stories that happen in this particular subculture of real life superheroes. Um, so that's where my thoughts are on it. Uh, it'll probably happen at some point. I'm not sure if I could get a publisher for it or if I'd have to self-publish it. Where's my light source? I gotta come back to these lips. Don't let me forget these lips. I haven't figured out a consistent light source yet. David Smith says, they might list your content copyright infringement when they see the titles of your videos, just to be safe so Disney doesn't sue them. Yeah, if you get that kind of demonetization, that's listed differently. They do tell you if there's a copyright infringement uh, issue. So those are pretty easy to fix if you choose to. No, these are just like they're not strikes or anything. They're just like you'll be looking in your metrics and you haven't got. They don't send you an email or anything. You have to just look at your own metrics, and all of a sudden you'll see that several of your videos have been quietly demonetized. Like, oh, it's nice to know. Surprise! Surprise! Nintendo says, have you ever released any other comics? A few. Excuse me. I've done a bunch of indie comics. Uh, those aren't too easy to find, so I won't go into that. But I've done a lot. And then I've done some work for hire stuff on books that you actually can find out and about. One is called Trickster. Two others are called Colonial Comics Volume 1 and 2. Those are all books that I've done work for hire pages for. So yeah, all of those are available in bookstores and Amazon and so on. But I haven't done anything for like Marvel or DC or Dark Horse. And the stuff that I have had in Image is just like pinups and stuff, so I don't really count that. Yeah. Hmm. What else is here? Sorry, I got a little quiet there. It's because I'm sick and I'm having trouble concentrating. Cheddar Monkey says, I see a bunch of comments on other channels saying someone with a programming background should make an alternative to YouTube, and that could be cool, but there are some pitfalls that come with that. Well, I mean, the problem is that there's a humongous audience at YouTube, so that makes sense that you know try to get a show going here, but yeah. The issue isn't even like, you know, they can have whatever rules they want. It's their channel. I just wish that they would be clear with those rules. Explain to us how they work, or give us access to someone that we can talk to if you need to challenge something. And that's the problem, is they make it very hard to talk to a real human being. Almost impossible, honestly. It's all controlled by just computer algorithms. It's ridiculous. Sigamig says, have you seen any modern anime recently? I've seen a little bit of couple things. I mean, Death Note, I don't know if you'd call that modern, but I've seen that, and I've seen Attack on Titan. I'm trying to think if there's anything else kind of modern. Nah, nothing's coming to mind. I don't watch a lot, I have to admit, but I like what I like. Milosh says, what's your opinion on Moon Knight? I think Moon Knight is a character with potential that has not always been handled consistently. I've heard that his latest series sort of takes advantage of that, basically, by going into detail on how he's sort of got a split personality. Is that Warren Ellis doing that? I don't know. I haven't read it yet. So I don't really know for sure. Excuse me. Nintendo says, wow, how did you release them? I've made some characters, but have no idea where to start. Are you talking about the self-published stuff? The stuff that I've done work for hire, I didn't have to worry about like the publishing aspect at all. Like Trickster and what do you call it? Colonial Comics. I haven't had to worry about any of that. The stuff that I self-published was as simple as well, they were anthologies that I did with my friends, and we would just sort of come up with an arbitrary number that we thought we could sell. We'll say 1,000 copies, talk to a printer, get a quote, say, okay, if it costs $5 a piece to make, you know, 100-page anthology, maybe you charge $9 for it or something and sell it at a convention. And we each get like 20 copies or something. I don't know. I'm making up numbers, but that's the logic that went into it. It wasn't hard. Um, yeah, it's just calling up a printer until you find one that can do the right kind of binding. But there's tons of options out there for stuff like that. You don't have to go to like one of the absolute biggest printers like the ones that Marvel and DC and so on use. You can use a local printer, as long as you're doing it maybe in black and white or only a little bit of color. And most of the stuff I self-published was black and white. They were anthologies with a group called the DC Conspiracy. Now that I think of it, some of them are probably for sale on. I bet that there's a DC Conspiracy website. I'm not really involved with them at all. Like I'm friends with all those guys, but ever since I moved away, I don't really keep up to date with what they're doing. And I probably have some copies myself, but they're all just boxed up somewhere, like copies that I haven't sold yet. Someday, someday I'll pull them out and probably rent some table space somewhere or something like that. If there was a lot of interest in my YouTube channel one day, I guess I could sell them here. Hadn't really thought about it too much, to be honest. But yeah, I love self-publishing. I think that everybody that's into comics should do it. It really proves that you know the business and are passionate about your characters, and it's a great way to get your foot in the door, because then you have an actual comic or two that you can take to conventions and portfolio reviews and stuff, and no matter what, like what quality of it is, if you've done some self-publishing, that earns you some bonus points and respect from editors and publishers very quickly. They'll take you a lot more seriously if you've taken that step. Lorena Escalier says, an interesting comic about what real-life superheroes would be is Watchmen. Yeah, it is, and it's one of the earliest deconstructions, but it does still have a superpowered being in it with Dr. Manhattan, so it's not 100% grounded, is it? But then neither is something like uh, Kick-Ass. I mean, you've got like a little girl that's a ninja, basically. It's there aren't kids out there that actually do that, so it's pretty far-fetched too. Ghost Dog says Daredevil season 1 is the Skunk Ape story. No, not quite. I never fought any ninjas, but we do have this thing here in the Pacific Northwest. There's a semi-organized group of anarchists, and they're kind of jerks. They take over existing parades and stuff and just start like smashing windows of businesses, and I don't really have any respect for that. I think that's pretty crappy. All right, what else are people saying? How much do you charge for drawing comic book? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that, Anja. What do you charge for drawing a comic book? I mean, are you saying like what's a going page rate for artists? It sort of depends on their experience and their talent. If somebody's really talented these days, and I wanted to hire them to make a pitch book to someplace like Image or Dark Horse or Lion Forge, I don't know, Avatar, Boom Studios, I would, and if they're a good artist, I'm going to pay them probably something around the vicinity of $150 for a page. That's basically both pencils and inks, but something like that. I'm sure that people in the industry get paid even more than that, and then I'm also sure that if you're doing something small press or indie, that there are artists that will work for less, especially if they know you and they want to take a chance on something. But I think that that's a pretty good standard these days, rule of thumb, somewhere around $150 a page. Figure it takes them 8 hours. Break that down. It's like, what, 20 some bucks an hour? I think that that's a fair price for a good artist. Keelan says, I made it! Yay! Yay. What else? Comic Book Guy says, sometimes I get depressed and just like watching stuff on YouTube, and yours is one of my fave channels. Well, I appreciate that, man, and I know dealing with depression isn't easy, so, if watching YouTube helps, then that's fine. Anything that keeps you with us. Uh, Depression is serious. I deal with a lot of depression myself, so I take it very, very seriously. I think I've been working with these pens enough that it's about time for me to get some new ones. They're dying on me a little bit. let's see. Nintendo says, would Images Publishing be a good option? That's what I've been thinking of doing. Image is great as long as you know what the deal is going in. They don't accept a ton of... Oh, shoot, I just messed up. They don't accept a ton of entries, especially from people that haven't really worked before. So it has to really be unique story, great art, and something that isn't overdone in the industry. Like if there's too much sci-fi, they're probably not going to say yes to it, even if you had fantastic art and a good story, because it's just a crowded market. That's just an example. I'm not saying that that is a crowded market, but I'm just saying be aware of that. What else? So Image's deal is, if they accept you, you pay Image a flat fee no matter how many copies you sell. That goes to Image's operating overhead, and you get all the profits to split amongst your creative team as you see fit. So, if you have a hit at Image, it's a fantastic deal. It's just fantastic. If it, doesn't sell enough, well, first of all, if the previews orders from Diamond come back and not enough retailers have pre-ordered your new comic, Image is going to say, look, we said we'd publish it, but you didn't get enough orders. That's fair. So that can happen theoretically. Just know that going in. But yeah, I think that the Image deal overall is pretty good. So they don't pay you. And I don't know these days what the flat fee is. It's been too many years since I've talked to anybody about it. But it's going to be like, I don't know, $3,000 or something like that. And that goes to their operating and overhead, and it's a good deal. That's the only deal that I really have any awareness of. I'm really not clear on how any other publishers out there handle things right now. And that's Image overall, not like any of their imprints like Skybound or anything like that. So Skybound would have a different deal than Image proper does. Just know that going in. All right. Jesus says, sorry I'm not talking too much. I'm just doing something right now. It's fine. Totally understand. Milos says, Warren Ellis did the 2014 run, this is about Moon Knight, which was a good standalone stories, and 2016 run by Jeff Lemire was the story focused on the multiple personalities. Okay, well, Lemire's a really good writer, so that is actually interests me. I don't think I was aware of that, so I would actually want to read Moon Knight now, knowing that. That's pretty cool. They're probably not my favorite character, but nothing wrong with Moon Knight. Keelan asks who I'm drawing, and Ghost Dog answers Faye Valentine. She's one of the main characters from an anime called Cowboy Bebop. It's one of the few that I really, really love. It's got a beginning, middle, and end to it. It's not just an ongoing, long story. I think it really has some interesting stories to tell about its characters. What else? Cheddar Monkey says, did a quick search on Overlord Google, and apparently DC Conspiracy has a Tumblr page. Sounds right. Again, haven't really, I moved away like 4 years ago, so I haven't really kept up with all of their projects. But I did do several anthologies with them. I think I did a sci-fi one, I did a horror one, did a war one, bunch of other stuff too. It's not all coming to me right now. Don't die on me, pencil. What else? Comic book guy says, I've been back into drawing because of this. Good. Drawing is fun. It's a great exercise. It's so good to experiment and see what we can do with just simple tools like this. I love drawing. Don't always love my results, but I love the actual act of drawing. Getting quiet while I work on some detail. I'll look at questions in just a sec. Whew. Boy, am I beat. I am sick as a dog. Nintendude says, Todd McFarlane is definitely one of my favorite artists. Working for him would be a dream come true. Good luck. Sounds doable. He employs a bunch of people at his toy company alone, so yeah. I get it. I used to be a big fan of his as well. I told this story a few nights ago, but in case anybody didn't hear it, on the first night that I was in New York, I think that was like a Thursday night last week, and my fiance and I were walking around Midtown, kind of near Times Square, and I see Todd McFarlane coming the opposite way. This is at night. The convention had probably ended like an hour or so ago. And I know who Todd McFarlane is. And so I was like all excited. And we get eye contact as we're walking towards each other. And we get closer and closer. And as I pass him, like just before I pass him, I go like, hey, how's it going? As though I know him. I mean, this all happened in a matter of seconds. Me seeing him, getting the eye contact, and him keeping the eye contact. So I felt like I had to say something. It was this weird social like thing of like, oh, I'm looking this person in the eyes. I should greet them. And I go, hey, how's it going? He doesn't know who I am. He has no idea. I've seen him at conventions, but he doesn't know me. So he's just sort of like, Excuse me, I'm coughing now. Our Ghost Dog says, how do you get the word out as a self-publisher? How would anyone know your comic even exists? It depends on what your goals are. These days you have social media. You have to probably go to some conventions, and I would recommend small press conventions like SPX and Space. There's some other great ones out there. And then, it depends on if you're trying to get your book distributed. And if you're trying to get your book distributed into comic book stores, you have to first submit what you're doing to Diamond Distribution, because they're pretty much the only game in town. They're basically a monopoly, essentially. Anyway, Diamond puts out a catalog for comic book stores every month called Previews. And any comic that they've accepted, which certainly includes Marvel, DC, Image, all the big publishers, but also includes quite a bit of self-published stuff, they put your book in that catalog with a small description that you provide. Now, this is if Diamond has accepted you. So basically, you submit an issue to them if you're self-publishing, and they'll go like, yeah, this is good enough. We will distribute this. Tell us, your price point. It might be $3.95 an issue for 20 pages, black and white, something like that. It can be whatever you want. So you pitch it to them. If they put it in previews, that goes out to all the retailers across the country. The retailers say, I'll order 2 copies, I'll order 10, I'll order 0. That comes back. Then they come to you and they say, you have an order for, 2,000 comic books nationwide. You go to your printer and you say, this is how many I want to print. So you don't necessarily lose money on the deal, because as long as you didn't print them beforehand, you just wait until you know how many comic book stores are ordering. Now, you may have invested some capital in paying your creative team to come up with that issue. Now, that's only how things work if you're self-publishing. If you're pitching it to a publisher, you don't have to draw the entire issue. You can, but you don't have to. Usually 6 pages of art is enough for them, and they'll probably also want to see the script for the first issue, as well as a summary of where it goes. So those two things work a little differently. Anyway, if you're not aware, I hope that little summary helps. But yeah, self-publishing is a great option. Keelan Powell says, do you like the DC Animated Universe, Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, those shows, and the other DCAU stuff they've been doing recently with movies like Justice League War and Son of Batman? I haven't really been watching their direct-to-video movies, but certainly stuff like Superman and Batman the Animated Series and Justice League, I've seen a bunch of all of that, and it's all really well done. Yeah, I like all that stuff. Definitely. Wish some of those creative people were the ones working on the live-action movies. They seem to understand the material pretty well. What works. Nintendo says, wow, sounds like every time we guys talk to girls. Truth. I missed something. Sorry, folks. But if you're talking to each other, that's awesome. Thinking things through, thinking things through. Sounds like I maybe bored everybody to death talking about self-publishing. Whoops. But it's something I'm passionate about because I think that self-published comics have some of the most passionate stories out there. You know that somebody really cared about what they were doing if they went to the trouble of self-publishing. So I have a lot of admiration for it. Nintendo says, we were talking about your experience with Todd McFarlane. The whole, hey, how's it going? Gotcha, gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for explaining to me what I was missing. mm. One of my cats has slipped into the room to greet me. Hey Milo, wanna hop up? Say hello to everybody? No? Okay. Oh. Hey, how's it going, kitty? Kitty cat. All right. Lorena says Brian Michael Bendis started self-publishing, then Todd McFarlane saw his work and hired him for Sam and Twitch. That's true. And I quite like Bendis's crime books that he self-published and even illustrated himself. I think that that's some of his stronger work in general. There was some real passion behind it. Torso, Goldfish, forgetting the other one. But yeah, that's how you get noticed. Is proving to somebody that you don't need them, they need you. That's how Kirkman made it. He was self-publishing Battle Pope for a number of years. And it proved to Image that he was capable of doing more. Trust me, he had a lot of pitches and proposals that they did not go for. He was pitching for a long time, so don't get discouraged. If it's what you want to do, go for it. Trying something. Not sure I like it. Oh well. You gotta try new things. If I was gonna go to the point where this was going to print, I'd probably clean up a few things digitally. But it's okay for now. Cheddar Monkey says, I liked hearing about the publishing. It's neat hearing how things work. Yeah, it's easier than I think some people think. It really isn't impossible to make your own comics. It just depends on what sort of scale you want to distribute them at. Whether you're doing it yourself at comic conventions or online, or if, your ultimate goal is to just sort of get paid work at one of the larger publishers out there. Hey, cat. There you are. Come here. You are so finicky. Cats are crazy. Keep moving this around. Now I'm up to 2 cats in here. Neither of them are going to come by and say hello and be nice to me. Hey, come over here. What is the point of having you and taking care of you if you're not going to jump on my lap from time to time? I'm going to have to throw you out. What time is it? Oh, Good. I think I'm keeping pace tonight. I think I'm going to be able to basically finish this one close to an hour. So I feel like pretty close to what I was setting out to do with this one. Better than last night's. How many of you out there are either a writer or an artist that wants to make comic books? So I'd be curious to know that. Like, how many of you actually want to do that? Because in my experience, it's a fairly high percentage of people that enjoy comics that also want to make them. Marcelo says, I want to be a cartoonist. Then you will be. It's as simple as that. If you just draw, you're a cartoonist. And somebody out there will like what you do, I promise. Just have to be patient, but somebody out there is going to like it. Nintendo says, I wouldn't make the hairband's line so straight. Her might be a little messed up, especially if she's been shooting around. Yeah, maybe. I definitely took that cue from the anime. But is that realistic? Which is sort of what my style is. No, probably isn't. So that's a fair observation. I wasn't imagining her having just been in action so much as just getting ready for a job or something. Ghost Dog says, definitely me. I'm a better artist than I am a writer, but I'd like to do both. And I think you will. Cheddar Monkey says that he or she, probably he, I think, enjoys writing and weaving narratives. Marcelo says, thanks. I think you guys are all capable of doing this. Here's the thing. There's going to be somebody out there that likes your work. There just is. And your trick is keep on making work, lots and lots of work, so that eventually one of it gets in front of the right person. You just be persistent. I promise you that persistent artists and writers make it in comics and cartooning. Because I know a good amount of professionals, and the point isn't to name drop. I'm not going to like list them all. My point is that the one thing all of them have in common, all of them, is they're always working. They're always working on the next idea and putting something out. Persistence. You will get noticed if you just keep at it. You will. It's not the only thing you need, but it might be the most important, just being persistent. That's what I think. Evan Morris says, I'm a creator of a heavy metal music-inspired battle series called Heavy Saga, mixing metal music with Norse myth. That sounds pretty cool to me. Sounds like something that there's definitely an audience for. No question. What else? What other ideas do we have out here? It's okay, and I'm not asking anybody to mention an idea if they want to keep it a secret. I understand. But let's see what people are talking about here. Gershgorsh says, I'd like to return to my graphics. One drawing of my imagination creations. I can do it for myself if it's not good. If you keep doing it, it will become good. You can't consistently draw without improving. You will improve if you just keep at it. I honestly think that even the drawings that I'm doing these days that aren't coming out quite how I envision are still, I at least can see where I need to improve them. So I'm learning a lot. And I think that if you keep at it, you're going to be successful. I really do. I believe that. Don't give up. What else? Evan Morris also says, I'm also a co-founder of Marshmallow Skull Comics with my girlfriend and her story called Spectrum. Comic Book Guy says, photorealistic rocks. You know what's funny is this is how I draw. This is not necessarily what I like in comics. Like, my favorite artists are guys like Mike Mignola, and I wouldn't necessarily call his work photorealistic. Maybe guys like Tony Harris are kind of photorealistic, and I respect that, but it's not necessarily my favorite. So you just do what you do, and I'm trying to just draw this to loosen up. I just want to loosen up and have some energy to everything. So that's my goal. Nintendo says, I feel art has to be interesting to look at. For example, an apple. Even if it's the ugliest drawn apple ever, it's interesting to the eye. It's good art, in my book anyway. Yeah, I think that makes sense. What are some tips you have for writers? First, you have to write. You have to write like every day, like even if it's short stories. You have to keep writing. It's the only way you're going to find your own problems and work them out, whether that's like dialogue or structure, etc. You've got to just write a ton so that you start noticing those things. And don't look at it like, and don't try to make a perfect first draft, basically. Just write. Know that it's going to have problems. Be willing to edit. Be willing to write it, set it aside for a little while, day or two at least, come back, read it with a fresh set of eyes, be willing to rewrite it, throw out whole chunks. When I write, sometimes I have to throw out some of my favorite scenes because I'm like, you know what? Slows the story down. I'll just have to take that idea, put it in the idea file for later because it's just slowing the story down. So it hurts me, even though I love that idea or that scene. That's me. Also, read a lot. Just keep reading, and even read books on mythology and structure, as in nonfiction books. Structure is everything. Understand the hero's circle. That's a good starting point. Read some Joseph Campbell. Understand the story circle. John Agello says, great stuff. I love your channel. That's super kind of you. Charles says, I want to be an artist filmmaker. Then I think you will be. I think all you need to do is pick. These days, it's easier than ever to make something, even if it isn't like professional level. You can at least grab your phone, right? You can at least grab your phone and make some videos and download an app to cut that stuff together. That's such an amazing tool to have at your disposal if you're interested in filmmaking. When I was a kid, maybe you were lucky enough to get a camcorder. Maybe. Try editing that on VHS tapes. Not easy. But if you loved it, you'd do it. I know I did for a while. I think I'm done with this drawing. I think I did basically what I wanted to. Now let me touch up one or two areas with shadow. Yeah. We really are lucky in a lot of ways with the tools that we have at our disposal these days, digital tools and promoting online and stuff. It's something. Yeah, I think that it's amazing to think that if you want to be a filmmaker today, you could take your phone and editing software, put something together, and put it up on YouTube, and it would have an actual audience. It might be a small audience, but it would still be an audience. That's amazing. That was just not a thing at all when I was a kid. I don't like these. Yeah, that wasn't helping the drawing any. Know what else? This doesn't sit right. Tonight, I'm making actual corrections. That is not right. All right, got to give this a minute to dry. That looked terrible. Johnny Jello says, "What character are you drawing here, Skunk Ape?" This is Faye Valentine. She's from an anime series called Cowboy Bebop about a team of bounty hunters in the future. Uh, and I think it's a great story. It's got a definitive ending, just one season, not a huge commitment to watch it all. It's good. Mark Berner says, "Looks great as always." Marcelo Salinas says, "Did you have any formal education in drawing?" No, nothing. I never went to art school or anything, but I have taken art classes, just drawing classes, like one in the summer between grades in high school. I don't remember what grade I was in, but there was a life drawing class. And then in college, just, you had to take a drawing class, but I was happy to. Aside from that, I will every once in a while go to like a life drawing session. Uh, Dr. Sketches is one, things like that, where you basically will pay a fee and a model will pose for you in poses. So, yeah, that's about it. No formal training. It's all self-taught, which is probably why I have issues with the art. Johnny Jello says, "Not familiar with Faye Valentine, but your art looks great." Well, I actually recommend it. Have you ever heard of the Jaden Smith anime? No. No, I have not. That's a good thing, I think. I don't think I'd want to see the Jaden Smith anime. That doesn't sound good at all. I know this is bad, but I'm actually gonna make her breasts bigger. I just didn't think they looked right. So we're gonna use a little bit of whiteout because this isn't digital. Going old school here. We're gonna try to bring these in line with something round, but hopefully not too unrealistic. I'm glad I'm almost done. Chrissy says, "No, I know, but I'm trying to be honest to the character. So, bear with me. They didn't look right before to me. They're a little fake." Oh, my kitty's here. Do you want to show up on camera? And he runs away. Oh, he wants to eat. It's food time. I've basically been able to tell that it's time to wrap up within an hour because my cat will start meowing outside and I know that it's time to feed him. What a monster. Hey, food monster. All right. So, some of the line work is a little bit sketchier than I actually would want, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I mostly got the idea across that I was going for. What else do I have? I feel like every once in a while I see a stray pencil mark that I don't like. Where's... Yep. All right. Johnny Jello says, oh, hi, Geek Workshop. This character is Faye Valentine from the anime Cowboy Bebop. I don't watch a lot of it, but I do recommend this one. It's quite good. She isn't necessarily the main character, but she's one of the important characters in it. Well, she's sort of a main character. There's basically three bounty hunters in the future, and she's one of them. She's important to the story. She has her own interesting sort of side story that goes on outside of the main thrust of the narrative. Johnny Jello says that he looked the character up and that I did do the right thing. Okay, good. I hope so. Who knows? Let's see. Anything else? Ghost Dog says, good night, Skunk Ape. Very informative and entertaining as always. Chrissy says, hubba, hubba. And Sigamig says, awesome interpretation of the character. So, yep, that's what I came up with. I'm just trying to get it up a little closer so you can see some of the detail. Let's get that kind of flat. Okay, it can't focus if I get too close. But there we go. There's Faye. And I know you can sort of see the whiteout areas, but if I scanned this, I'd be able to clean this line art up so that it's nice, solid black and white. Thank you, Jesus and Geek Workshop. That's today's illustration. I appreciate everybody joining me tonight. And yeah, this was a little tough because I'm not feeling too well, but sticking with it. I hope my persistence counts for something. And if you guys out there are writers or artists or filmmakers or musicians, you know, the only thing I can tell you really is just keep at it. If you're persistent, someone's going to notice your work. It's eventually the right person is going to notice your work. And the only time they're not going to notice it is if you give up and you don't have something new to show. So just keep making new stuff. You're going to learn from it. You're going to learn to enjoy the process. If I can do it, anyone can do it. All right. Good talking to everybody. Keep reading comics.